Ready to buy a house? There's a lot of videos out there that prepare you to buy a house. In this video, I'm going to take you through the actual process from start to finish, buying a house in the state of Oregon. All that starts now. Hey everyone, as I mentioned in this quick video, I'm going to take you through the process from identifying a house and actually writing an offer all the way up until close. It's going to be a little bit different from state by state. So if you're in a different state and watching this video, or maybe you've never bought a house before, this is going to be very helpful for you. So the first thing here we're going to start with, you want to be pre-approved. Of course, you're going to need to be pre-approved unless you're paying with cash in order to write an offer on a house. Now you can use any type of lender that you want. You can use a hard money lender, you can use a friend, you can use really anything that you want, but there's three types of banks that people typically use. One of the big banks like a Chase or Wells Fargo or Citibank, a small bank like a local credit union, or a dedicated mortgage lender like a Rocket Mortgage, a Guild, or a Quicken Loans. You also have smaller independent dedicated mortgage brokers as well. Now, any of these banks will work, but I will say, though, that oftentimes a dedicated mortgage lender is going to be a little bit more of the preference, sometimes not only for the buyer, but also for the seller. Sometimes loan officers at like a Chase or a B of A or your local credit union might not be familiar with mortgages. They might not have done too many mortgages in the past. They might not be familiar with the docs or the timeline. So having a dedicated mortgage lender is usually the preference. But if you have some sort of relationship with somebody at your local credit union or whatever bank that you use, you feel comfortable with that person, they feel comfortable with the process, you can certainly use anybody that you want. Dedicated mortgage lenders too also sometimes will have a reason to be more competitive with their rates and with their packages. Sometimes the bigger and the smaller banks are not going to have as competitive as packages, and usually that's going to translate to a better interest rate. So in order to purchase a home, you're going to want to have your pre-approval letter from your lender. Now, the first thing that most people really do, quite frankly, is they start searching online. Zillow, Realtor.com, Redfin. Most people start searching well in advance of when they're actually going to buy a home or start looking at homes, usually 6 to 12 months in advance. So the moment people start thinking about moving, they usually tend to go online and start searching for homes. Now, those websites, Zillow, Realtor.com, Redfin, everybody seems to have their favorite. As a broker, I wouldn't necessarily say that, in my view, that one is better than another. We will set you up on automatic home search updates, so we can get you connected to the MLS. Oftentimes, you're going to get updated a little bit quicker than those websites like Zillow and Redfin are going to update you, but we will get you updated on home searches so that you can receive emails anytime a new home that comes to the market that fits your criteria. Now, I do think that this is important, and I do actually think that it's good for people to start their search very early. In fact, most people are going to start their search well before they get pre-approved. Starting the search is typically the first thing that people do, like I mentioned, and I think it is a healthy thing to do, because when you're searching online for homes for sale, you're paying attention to the market. Usually these websites that people use like Zillow or Redfin allow you to love or favorite or like a property. When you do that, you'll get status updates, for example, when it goes from active to pending. So by following the market and searching and looking at homes for sale online, you inform yourself, you give yourself a better idea of how quickly homes go under contract, how quickly they go from active to pending, how often homes come on the market, what days they come on the market. You probably noticed that Thursday and Friday homes tend to come on the market more often than, like, say, Monday or Tuesday. How often do homes come on the market in June or July as opposed to September or November or December? So just searching and shopping online is a good thing to do to familiarize yourself with the market, but we will get you updated and set up with automatic updates so that you don't necessarily have to if you don't want to. Now, most people shop online for homes for sale, but if you want us to send you properties and you don't do any of that stuff, that's no problem. We'll be happy to send you all the properties. Now, once we're pre-approved and we started looking at properties, the next step is to start touring properties. When we tour properties, it's usually going to be with myself, with an agent. You can, of course, go to an open house. Open houses aren't as common as they used to be. So typically what we're doing is we're scheduling tours, which are usually about 30 minutes a piece. Usually schedule these about 24 hours in advance. And some tips for you when we tour homes. Feel free to take pictures or videos. In fact, we do encourage it. You don't want to rely on what you see on the MLS or what you see on Zillow or realtor.com, because sometimes a seller or the listing agent will have pictures taken of the home, obviously before it's listed, but sometimes the pictures that are taken of the home, sometimes those don't accurately reflect the current state of the home. So somebody might have taken pictures well before it was listed, and they might have left some furniture or some decor or something in the home that they've since removed. Let's say somebody took pictures and there was a refrigerator that they left in the home, but after they took the pictures, they took the fridge out. You want to write an offer on that home. You forget if it had a fridge or not because you've looked at so many different homes. You've looked at 12, 15 different other homes, and you refer back to the MLS or Zillow or realtor.com to check those pictures and see if the house that you're interested in writing an offer on has a refrigerator. In the pictures it does, but in reality it doesn't have a fridge because somebody came in there after the pictures were taken and took the fridge out. You write the offer asking for the fridge. Maybe they catch it, maybe they don't. Let's say the listing agent doesn't catch it and you end up closing on the house, and you walk into the house after closing and there's no fridge there. So really important to take your own pictures and your own videos when you tour the house, as opposed to just relying on the pictures that you see on the internet. Now, you also want to make notes if you can for similar reasons. A lot of people will do a pros and cons spreadsheet, especially if you're looking at a lot of different houses. Again, once you start looking at more than 5, 6, 7 different houses, a lot of them start to blend and blur together. And it's hard to remember which one had appliances, which one didn't, which one had certain features, which ones didn't. If you're not great with spreadsheets, we can help you out with that. We'll create one for you and share it with you. Once we've identified a property, it's time to write our offer. Now, myself and Paul, the other person from this channel, as your broker, we're going to go over strategies with you as to how we write our offer. We're also going to go over the contract with you. You're seeing part of it right here from the first page. These contracts, copyrighted by Oregon Real Estate Forms. All of us brokers in the state of Oregon, we all use the same contracts. I will say in this year, there has been a new type of form, a new type of contract that's been introduced. I'm not going to get into that in this video today. It's not really coming into play yet. That will come into play at some point in the near future. But as it stands right now, we're all, for the most part, using these same contracts with the same verbiage. Now, you can submit an offer to a seller on a napkin if you want. You can write any type of offer that you want. Are they going to entertain it? That's a different story. Probably not, of course. So typically, we're going to be writing offers on the same contracts that all the brokers use, and we'll go over this contract with you. It's about 500 lines long. A lot of it is legal jargon. It was written by lawyers. Some of it is legislated by the state, so there are some state laws that are written into these contracts. So we don't ever alter or change these contracts. We just simply fill them in. So we're filling in numbers and dates, and there's a handful of other things in there, additional provisions that we can fill in, such as, like I mentioned a moment ago, asking for appliances, asking the seller to leave the fridge, the stove, the washer and dryer. Those are common things. But we will go over this contract with you in detail, including a strategy as to how we can expect to write this in a manner that will actually get accepted by the seller. Now, once we have been accepted by the seller, the first business day after they accept, that's when the contract begins. So if you've seen something on Zillow or Redfin that was active and then went pending, that means a contract was signed by both parties and started and began. Typically, a conventional loan, usually closing is about 30 days. So we usually write these contracts for about a 30-day period to go through all of the steps. Now, we're not going to go over all 500 lines in this video. Like I mentioned, we'll go over those with you when you meet with us. And again, as licensed brokers in the state of Oregon, as much as we like making these videos, we'd love to help you move if you're thinking about taking the next step. So if you're that person, you can call us, text us, email us, or click the link below in the description if you want to schedule a Zoom call with us. My name is Seth Marchant. Paul Klim is the other person from this channel. And if you want to see more videos about what it's like to live in Oregon, that's a lot of what our content actually is what it's like to live in Oregon, not getting into the nitty gritty with the contracts and stuff like this in these videos too often. So if you'd like to see more about what it's like to live in Oregon, make sure and hit the subscribe button and tap the bell. That way you'll be notified every time we drop a new video, which is twice a week. So now getting into the contract without all 500 lines, there's a handful of important things that you need to know, which are called contingencies. There's a handful of things in the contract that allow you as the buyer to get out of the contract and also get your earnest money back. Earnest money is one of the first things that you'll do. It's this line right here. Earnest money is just oftentimes figure, let's say 1% of the purchase price. It can vary, and again, that kind of goes into our strategy. That's a strategy conversation, but just for simple math, figure about 1% of your purchase price would be a common number for your earnest money deposit. So once you've submitted your earnest money, which is typically we write that in within 3 business days of the contract being accepted. These are the list of contingencies that if not met, you can get your earnest money back and have the contract canceled. So the first one, the seller's property disclosure. Now this is going to vary from state to state. Some states, the seller will actually provide a property disclosure to the listing agent to provide to any prospective buyer. Sometimes they'll put it on the MLS for buyer's agents to share with their buyers. But most of the time in the state of Oregon, you don't receive the seller's property disclosure until your offer is accepted. It's usually a day or two after. Now, once you receive that property disclosure, you have 5 days to object to that property disclosure and say, I don't like what I read on here, we're canceling the contract. And the seller's property disclosure is a series of questions that the seller will answer about their property and about the condition of the property. One of the first questions, do you have the legal authority to sell the property, for example? Now, it's not too common that we hear about people canceling a deal specifically because of the seller's property disclosure. Sometimes buyers will use that as maybe they have another reason. Maybe they got cold feet. Maybe they have another reason why they want to get out of the contract. They can always fall back on the seller's property disclosure as long as it's within 5 business days of receiving it and say, hey, this house isn't going to work for us. Next contingency, this is one of the bigger ones here, the home inspection. Typically 10 business days. When things were a little bit more competitive, oftentimes it would be written in as 7 business days, sometimes even as low as 5 business days. Now in Oregon, this is also a little bit different from some other states. Some other states, the seller will pay for the home inspection. In this case, the buyer pays for the home inspection. Size and age of the house are really going to dictate what that costs. You could be looking at typically anywhere from $500 for like a smaller condo or an attached like townhouse, up to closer to $1,000 for a larger home. Now, a home inspection, what is a home inspection? What do home inspectors do? They conduct a general visual examination of the current condition of the house. They access mechanical systems of the house, plumbing, electric, heating, cooling, general interior, attic, insulation, ventilation, siding, windows, doors, roofs, attached garages, foundations, and visible structures. This is from the state of Oregon's website. It says a pest and dry rot, wood destroying organisms report may be included. Most of the home inspectors we work with are able to weigh in to some degree about dry rot and pests. They do not examine features that are apart from the main structure. That typically includes septic systems, wells, underground piping, swimming pools. Now, aside from what you're reading right here, oftentimes 2 other parts or aspects of an inspection that are common would be a sewer scope, which an inspector will take this long snake-like thing that they'll put down into the sewer to check the sewer down from the line from the house all the way to the city line. Once you hit the city line, you're not responsible, or at least there's a place where you're not going to be responsible for your sewer line. And then also a radon test. Radon is a hazardous gas. It's found everywhere. We all have radon in our houses. Just a matter of how much radon you have. So we're typically doing a sewer scope and a radon test as well. If the property does have a septic tank, oftentimes a septic inspection will also be included. Keynote for home inspectors: they do not move furniture, rugs, or other obstacles. Inspect areas that are inaccessible. This includes interior wall, wet crawl spaces, and steep or wet roofs. Now, home inspectors are always getting up on a roof, or oftentimes they will have a drone in this day and age. Definitely getting into the crawl spaces. They're not, if the crawl space is full of water though, they're not going to go wading through the crawl space. So once you've done your home inspection, there may be some post-inspection negotiations. So if you find something, the inspector finds something that you didn't expect, don't want, you can ask the home seller to repair those things, or you can ask the seller for a credit at closing for you to repair on your own. It's up to the seller if they want to do that or not. That's a longer conversation as far as that process and how that typically goes. So if you have questions about the home inspection, just get with us. Another contingency you'll have is the preliminary title report. Once you go under contract, escrow will send a title report usually within 2 business days, up to 5 business days. And then you'll have 5 days to object to anything that you see on the title report that you don't like. So what's a preliminary title report going to show? It's going to show things like liens against the home, easements affecting the property, judgments against buyers, things like child support, alimony, court judgments, taxes, codes, covenants, restrictions known as CCRs and bylaws, things like that. So it's going to show you all the kind of the important legal stuff. And if there's anything that you see on there that you don't like, you are able to object to that and get your earnest money and cancel the contract. And then finally, there is the appraisal contingency. So the lender, if you're borrowing money, will also have an inspection of the home. The purpose of that inspection, to make sure that the home is worth what you have offered for it, but also to make sure that the lender feels comfortable about the condition of the property. If there's certain things about the property, let's say there's a hole in the roof, let's say the heat doesn't work, for the lender, there's going to be an added degree of risk there, because when you have major problems with a property like that, people are going to spend the money to fix those things before they're going to pay their mortgage. So the purpose of the appraisal from the lender is not just to make sure the property is worth what you are offering for the property, but also to make sure that it's livable. So nothing wrong with the exterior, the siding, the roof. You got to have heat, water, all those major things. There's a handful of little things too that lenders will call out. Some of the smallest ones that we typically see is no smoke alert detectors, or not enough smoke alert detectors, carbon monoxide detectors. A funny little one that people aren't always aware of that we pretty commonly see is your hot water heater tank. Oftentimes in your garage should have these 2 big straps around it that connect to the wall, called earthquake straps, so that if you ever have an earthquake, that hot water heater doesn't fall over and explode everywhere. So you have these 2 big straps that strap your hot water heater tank to the wall, and oftentimes for whatever reason those straps are missing. Very easy, anybody can put them on, or you just pay a handyman maybe half an hour of labor to do so. So those are your list of contingencies that you will go throughout the process of the contract. Usually these take just a couple weeks to get through, so you're about halfway through your contract. At least for these first 3, the appraisal comes towards the end. And then one other thing is going to be a little bit different with Oregon. We don't have it written into our contracts that there will be a final walkthrough. Some states do. Some states it's just an automatic thing that's written to our contracts. Again, most states everybody's going to be using the same contract. In Oregon, because it's not as common and because it's been a seller's market, it's very rare that somebody would write that in there. As a seller, you want as few contingencies as possible. Another contingency that you will sometimes see, although wasn't very common in the past few years because it didn't very often get accepted, is a contingency of a sale. So if you're a buyer and you need to sell the house that you're currently in before you can buy another house, you can write that into the provisions of a contract and make that a contingency that the seller would have to wait for you to sell your house before you can complete this contract. Sellers, of course, don't want to do that, because if that's just one more thing that can fall through and break your contract. So never a preference for a seller to accept an offer that is contingent upon the sale of another home. This is one other contingency, a final walkthrough. So because sellers want as few contingencies as possible, it wasn't as common to see final walkthroughs written into our contracts over the past few years. It's going to be really case by case. Kind of goes back to what I mentioned before about strategy and how we write our offers, which we will discuss with you. Every property is going to be a little bit different. We don't bring the same generic templated strategy to every property. We have a custom strategy for each property. So whether or not we're going to write into a walkthrough is something that we'll discuss with you. Once everything has been completed, once you close, you will be handed the keys, and it won't be the last time you see us if you don't want to. We will still be around. We will still be here to help you. We'll help you get utilities set up throughout the process as well. We'll really do everything that you need. We'll help you with logistics with your move. If you need help hiring movers, whatever it may be, we'll help you out throughout the entire process, but also at the very end too. If you still have questions, we're still going to be your friend. You can still reach out to us. You know where to find us. We're always going to be on YouTube, right? So if you're somebody that's thinking about taking those next steps, if you're ready to talk about it, maybe you just want to get set up on a home search, you can just start searching online. If you need a lender, we have a lot of lenders that we can refer to you so we can give you some different options. Whatever it may be, you can call us, text us, email us, or you can click the link below in the description if you want to schedule a Zoom call with us. And if you've made it this far in the video, make sure and subscribe to us. Give us a thumbs up, give us a like, lets us know we're doing a good job, and feel free to leave a comment too. We'll be sure to respond. And until next time, take care, everyone.